Hi everyone, it's Nicole. Welcome back to my channel and another card making video tutorial. Today I have a quick and easy way to get 2 cards from one stenciled and stamped background. So if you love color layering stencils, this is a very fun way to easily get 2 cards from one panel. And you could even make more panels and get more cards. Both of these were created in well under an hour, more like about 40 to 45 minutes. I get asked a lot how long it takes me to create cards, and a lot of my cards do take a little bit longer. So I love to be able to tell you when something goes together quickly, but still is super eye-catching. We are going to use the new color layering watermelon stencils from Hero Arts, part of the July 2023 My Monthly Hero release, and we are going to stencil on a craft background. Now, I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I love to just stencil on something that isn't white. So I'm checking to see how it looks to make sure I am liking it. And I wanted to show you, even if you need to move things around or whatever, the great thing about stencils is you can come right back. It lines up so easily. I am using the Altenew stamp wheel to hold my stencil in place while I'm working. The mat inside is sticky. Now I do want to tell you that I'm using dye inks, and dye inks tend to stain. I immediately washed the insert for my stamp wheel, and I actually used some rubbing alcohol. So the minute I'm done stenciling, I went and cleaned both my stencils and that stamp wheel insert with the rubbing alcohol in a spray bottle, because these inks do tend to stain the stencils. But the amazing thing about the rubbing alcohol is it wicks it away instantly. So I would highly recommend that if you like to use dye inks for your stenciling as well. I used field greens for my first layer, cherry for my second layer, and now I'm going to go back to field greens and get a smaller blending brush, and I will also be using some charcoal. So the third stencil has both the layering for the watermelon, and it also has the seeds. And I really wanted the seeds to be a gray or black color. I'm going to use charcoal ink, but because of that, I decided to use smaller blending brushes. So I went and did everything that's green first with the small blending brush. Then I'm going to take the small round, or you could use a detailer blending brush for this as well. And I'm going to go in and add that charcoal on top so that the seeds that are scattered around my card have that color to them. I purposely picked charcoal ink because I am going to stamp over this panel with the Marching Ants bold print, also part of the July release. And I am going to use the black intensified ink for that so that it stands out against the more grayish black of the charcoal. You can see with a small blending brush, you can get into those little areas easily without covering up anything that I want to be green with the black ink. So this works fantastic, and even though it's an extra step, it is super quick and easy. When I peel the stencil away, I just absolutely can't get over how amazing this background is. I love color layering stencils. I know so many of you do as well. I'm loving all of the fruit stencils that seem to be available in the market, and this is a great one. I like the size, I like the design, and we're basically making our own pattern paper here. Oh my goodness, how awesome is this? I didn't even have to pick another shade of green for my watermelon. I simply just went back over it with the same field greens. Now I'm removing the insert from my MISTI, and I am going to stamp the bold print again with that intensified black ink as I mentioned earlier. This is going to give very crisp stamped images of these marching ants. Now, what I was amazed with when I stamped this, the detail is incredible. The red rubber just gives the best detail, and those little ants are all over the picnic, and I think it's so much fun. So now that we have our own custom pattern paper background, it's time to figure out how many cards we can get out of it. If you want to use a smaller strip, you could probably even get maybe 3 cards if you wanted to, or just stencil and stamp several more at the same time. From my stash, I'm going to pull out the Hero Arts Friend Words dies. I want to use the word friend in combination with this picnic basket happy birthday sentiment for my card today. The picnic basket stamp set and coordinating dies is part of the release, and there is a die for the happy birthday sentiment as well as a couple more from this set. I love that because it makes it really easy for layering. So we will be layering happy birthday and friend along the top edge of the card. What I like to do is lay everything out, so I left this part in so that you could see my thought process as I'm designing the card. I also have pulled the ants, that little row of ants from the picnic basket stamp set, and I think that's going to go right underneath the word friend. And I think we'll use a contrasting color of cardstock to set apart the top part of the card from the bottom, as well as add a little bit more color and interest. I'm going to cut my panel at 2 3/4 inches. So it will measure 4 1/4 by 2 3/4, and that gives me 2 panels, 1 for each card. Now I made both cards exactly the same. You could very easily switch up sentiments and change it to hello or a friendship style card, whatever you are needing. I just simply made both of these the same today, but use any greetings that you like. I also have trimmed some Hero Arts palm cardstock here that is going to be about 1 inch taller. So it measures 3 by 4 1/4, and that's going to go right underneath my decorative, what I'm calling pattern paper that we just created. We're going to adhere that to the bottom. Now my hack for lining this up perfectly is, let's go ahead and move everything out of the way. If you ever have had trouble lining up your layers and you have a MISTI, let me get everything. If you take your first layer and lay it in the corner of your MISTI, then you can take your next layer and layer it right on top, and it just is the perfect placement every time. And while I have my layers in the MISTI, let's figure out where we want our row of ants to go along that little green strip. And then I'm going to stamp them. Now it's not going to completely go across the border, but I do need to add a couple more here in a minute, so I will come back to that after I've done the second card. I'm pretty much doing assembly line style crafting at this point. So let's attach our second pattern paper base to the green cardstock. I've also die cut the word friend off camera 6 times so that we can stack 3 on top of each other at a time for each card to give it a little bit more of a substantial look. And this was die cut from some Cranberry Hero Arts cardstock, and I find that Schoolhouse Red from Simon Says Stamp is very similar. Then I'm going to move my ant stamp and only ink up 2 of the ants and stamp them at the end. I want them to only be underneath where the loop in the F is for the word friend. You'll see that here in a minute when I attach it to the card base. Just like I did for the 2 layers with the pattern paper, we're going to take our additional 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch panel, and we're going to place that in the MISTI. And then we're going to attach our pattern paper right to the bottom. While we're doing this step, we can then stamp our little bee trail. Because the top of the card it gives your eye a place to rest. The layered watermelons with the ants is pretty busy, but by adding simple elements up at the top, it gives your eye a place to rest, but I still want to have some interest. So in addition to our sentiments and then that little row of ants, I am going to add a bee trail and then a little bee from the Lemonade stamp set. The Lemonade stamp set is part of the July release. You might have a bee in another stamp set that you already own, or a butterfly or something cute like that, or even like a little ladybug. I'm going to stamp the bee trail with the same intensified black ink, And we're going to do the other background at the same time. I love assembly line style crafting, and I also love getting multiple cards from one crafting session. While you have the supplies out, my motto is you might as well go ahead and make more than one card. Once we have our backgrounds, now we can add our die cut friend greeting. And I did notice that I didn't have this one layer completely cut correctly, so I'm going to fix that really quick. I think I have it. I think it's okay. All right. So it's looking super cute. I decided to use red for the die cut friend greeting because I love how it stands out from the rest of the design. And we're just going to speed up the layering of the die cuts since it is a little time consuming. One thing I want to mention about these Hero Arts script words, they are a nice thickness that's not too thick. I hope that makes sense because I find them very easy to work with. I don't think that they warp a lot, but yet it's not super chunky. I hope that makes sense. So for me, I just think they're really, really nice. From the picnic basket set now, I am going to prep some black cardstock with a powder tool so that I can stamp happy birthday a couple of times, heat emboss with white embossing powder, and then die cut it with the coordinating die to add to our card. And up at the top of the screen, I know it's kind of hard to see, but once I stacked those die cuts one on top of another and adhered them to my card, I put some acrylic blocks on top to help hold them nice and flat until that glue completely dries. And I am going to speed up this process as well, getting my heat tool and then die cutting our greetings, all of that good stuff. Now, once you the embossing powder, pardon me, has cooled after you've melted it, do make sure that you buff away that excess powder from your black cardstock. Your greeting will look so much better. Oh, look how cute that looks. And I really like how the black ties into the black of the ants and the charcoal of the seeds and the watermelons. And I'm just piecing some of these thin foam adhesive strips from Gina K back behind my greeting, and I'm leaving a little spot where it goes over the leg of the letter D so that it just goes right over that nicely and lays nice and flat. Part of the reason I used foam is because with 3 layers of cardstock for the word friend, it automatically is popped up a little bit. On a scrap piece of Desert Storm cardstock, I am now stamping one of the bees from the Lemonade stamp set a couple of times. There are a couple of different bee options. I picked this one, and I picked craft cardstock because I want everything to tie together. I don't want any white cardstock standing out against the rest of the card design. And your alcohol ink markers look fantastic on craft. If you have not tried it, it is one of my all-time favorite effects. I literally use 3 markers here though. It's hardly anything. I used a yellow and then some like blue-green aqua colors to color in the wings and just give them a hint of color before grabbing the coordinating bee die and die cutting it. And we're gonna die cut this guy, and then we are going to pop this up with foam on our card bases. And I love this little addition of something kind of unexpected or fun up high. The bee trail really is reminiscent of the ants down below, but it gives a nice little focal point and gives your eye, you know, just something interesting to look at. I'm also going to add a little black heart there to the end of the D. I think only one is all that's needed here today. You know how I love my little heart accents. Then we will adhere each of these to a white top fold card base to finish. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for these 1 background 2 cards project featuring brand new July 2023 My Monthly Hero products. The supplies I used are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining me today for another paper crafting tutorial. I love being able to share with this incredible community of crafters. I want to give a huge shout out and special thank you to my amazing Patreon members. If you're interested in joining Patreon, please click the link in the description underneath the video here on YouTube. Patreon is a private community where you can support more of what I do. There's exclusive content, you'll receive a handmade birthday card from me during your birthday month, monthly lives for my top tier patrons, and more. We would love to have you join our growing community. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel, click the like button, and don't forget to click the notification bell so you're always notified when I have a video or go live. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you again next time.